road was deserted, a narrow, two-lane highway cutting through dense woods, the kind of place where GPS often loses signal, and the sky is completely black except for the stars. I was driving home late from a friend's party, exhausted and annoyed that the route I'd chosen was longer than expected. The headlights illuminated the asphalt, but the edges of the road dissolved into shadows. Trees pressed close on either side, their branches scraping against the car like fingers. Every few minutes I passed a faint glimmer of something metallic, reflecting the headlights, but I couldn't tell what it was. Road signs had begun to look unfamiliar, as if I had passed them before, only slightly altered. I turned on the radio, hoping for static to fill the silence, but every station was dead. Just before I switched it off, a faint voice whispered through the speakers, so soft I thought I imagined it. "Don't stop." My stomach dropped. I rolled my eyes, told myself it was fatigue or interference, and kept driving. Then I saw it, a figure standing at the side of the road, motionless, back to me, wearing dark clothes. The posture was strange, rigid, almost inhuman. I slowed instinctively, heart pounding, but when my headlights fell on the figure, it was gone. No footprints, no movement, nothing. Just the empty road. I tried to dismiss it, chalk it up to shadows, trees, or fatigue, but a shiver ran down my spine. The road stretched ahead, seemingly longer than it should have been, and in the rearview mirror, I caught the faint reflection of a figure that hadn't been there before, standing behind a tree that I knew I had passed miles ago. I accelerated, trying to put distance between me and the strange feeling of being followed. The road curved unexpectedly, the asphalt cracking under the headlights, and the familiar landmarks were gone. It was like the forest had rearranged itself. I checked the GPS, but the signal was lost. My phone was dead, despite being fully charged an hour ago. Then I noticed movement along the roadside. Shadows between the trees stretched unnaturally, bending in ways no human or animal could. They flickered and vanished, only to reappear further down the road, always keeping pace with me. I glanced at the speedometer. The numbers fluctuated, even though my foot was steady on the pedal. The dashboard clock blinked erratically, skipping forward and back. The feeling of being watched grew unbearable. Ahead, a road sign appeared, "End of road, 2 miles." I remembered taking this turn hours ago. It didn't make sense. Another figure appeared in the middle of the lane, standing perfectly still, head tilted slightly. Its presence radiated a quiet menace, and my first instinct was to swerve, but something told me that any sudden move would trigger it. I slowed, watching. The figure didn't move, but the air seemed to ripple around it, like heat over asphalt on a summer day. Then, in a blink, it was gone. Only a faint imprint remained on the road, darker than the asphalt, fading quickly into nothing. My heart raced. I realized with horror that the road itself was becoming unfamiliar, hostile, reshaping itself in ways I could not predict.
By now, panic had set in. My eyes darted constantly between the road, the mirrors, and the edges of the forest. The fog had begun to rise, swirling low over the pavement. My headlights cut through it, but the beams bent strangely, making the shadows seem longer, closer. A loud thump rocked the car. I froze. Something had hit the roof or brushed along the side. I could feel it, subtle but tangible, like fingers dragging across metal. My hands gripped the steering wheel until my knuckles turned white. Suddenly, the figure appeared again, this time in the middle of the road, closer than before. I swerved instinctively, tires skidding over loose gravel, but there was nowhere to go. My mind screamed to stop, but my body refused. The figure didn't move, yet the road itself seemed to tilt toward it, forcing me closer. A whispering filled my ears, not audible, but inside my head. "Drive. Keep driving. Don't look back." I obeyed, though every instinct urged me to stop. The figure vanished the moment I passed, but I could feel its presence lingering, like the road had absorbed it. Then the asphalt ahead collapsed, or seemed to, revealing a black abyss beneath. The bridge or road I thought I was on disappeared for a heartbeat, and I almost went over. My hands shook as I regained control. The fog swirled, obscuring the road, and I realized that nothing ahead looked familiar. Every turn, every curve led me back to the same stretch of road I had already passed, a loop I could not escape. Hours, or maybe minutes later, I reached what I thought was the end of the night road. My car idled on an empty stretch of asphalt, the forest on either side silent. No fog, no figures, nothing. The GPS came back, showing a straight path home. Relief washed over me. But when I glanced in the rearview mirror, I froze. Hundreds of faint silhouettes stood along the edge of the road, featureless and still, just beyond the tree line. Some seemed closer than others, stepping forward slightly, always watching, always waiting. I tried to drive, but the road curved impossibly back into the same stretch I had just passed. No matter which way I turned, I ended up in the same place. The whispers returned, faint, insistent, repeating in my mind, "Don't stop, don't look back, don't leave." I realized then the road had claimed me. It was no longer just asphalt and trees, it had become something alive, patient, feeding on fear. The figures were not trying to harm me. They were keeping me here, suspended in a night that never ended, trapped on the road where reality itself warped. And now, whenever someone drives this stretch at night, locals say they sometimes see a lone car, headlights on, engine idling, with no driver inside. And if you look too closely, you can feel them watching.
The highway stretched endlessly into the darkness, a thin ribbon of asphalt cutting through dense woods that pressed in from both sides. I was driving home late after a friend's party, exhausted, my thoughts foggy from the combination of too much coffee and too little sleep. The headlights barely penetrated the blackness ahead, leaving the edges of the road to be swallowed by shadows that seemed to twitch whenever I looked at them. Every few minutes, I saw something reflecting the headlights, a glimmer of metal or maybe a road sign. But when I blinked or turned my eyes, it was gone. My grip on the steering wheel tightened. The radio, which I'd left on to keep myself alert, was dead. Static hummed, then faint fragments of music interrupted by an almost imperceptible whisper. "Don't stop." My pulse quickened. Fatigue, I told myself. It had to be fatigue. Then I saw it, a figure at the edge of the road. Pale, rigid, standing unnaturally still as if rooted to the spot. It faced away from me, unblinking. I slowed, instinctively, heart hammering in my chest. But the moment my headlights swept over it, it vanished. No footprints, no rustling leaves, nothing to indicate it had ever been there. I tried to rationalize it. A trick of light, a shadow, my imagination, but unease had settled deep in my chest. The road ahead seemed longer, and the black void beyond the beams felt alive. I caught a movement in the rearview mirror, a faint reflection, a figure standing behind a tree I knew I had passed miles ago. It was impossible. My stomach churned. The trees pressed closer as the road curved sharply. Every crack in the asphalt seemed magnified, like the road was narrowing. I could feel my hands trembling on the wheel, my heart pounding in rhythm with the tires on the rough surface. The whisper returned, faint but urgent, echoing inside my head. "Don't stop." I swallowed hard and forced my foot on the accelerator, though every instinct told me to pull over, to run. Fog began creeping in from the fields beyond the tree line.
It rolled across the asphalt like pale smoke, curling and twisting as if it had a mind of its own. I blinked, trying to focus, and that's when I realized the forest had changed. The same trees I had passed for miles were now in positions that made no sense. Shadows stretched across the road, twisting into humanoid shapes, moving just at the edge of vision. My breath caught in my throat. I wasn't imagining it. As the fog thickened, the shadows seemed to respond to me, lengthening when I slowed, contracting when I sped up. I felt their attention, silent but absolute, pressing down on the car like a physical weight. The night, the road, the trees, all of it had become alien, threatening, and I realized with a cold surge of fear that I might not make it home. I pressed harder on the accelerator, desperate to escape the feeling of being watched, yet the road ahead twisted in ways that made no sense. Cracks in the asphalt seemed to shift under the tires, and the trees that had once been familiar were now jagged, leaning over the road, their branches scraping the car in sudden jarring bursts. Shadows flickered across the windshield, sometimes forming indistinct humanoid figures, always just beyond clarity. My GPS had gone dead hours ago. The phone showed zero signal, despite being fully charged. The radio crackled intermittently, fragments of static and whispers merging together. I tried turning it off completely, but the whispers persisted, soft, insistent. "Don't leave. Don't leave." I swallowed hard, but the words penetrated my thoughts anyway, climbing into my skull with icy fingers. A faint light appeared on the roadside. At first I thought it was a reflection of my headlights, but it resolved into the shape of a figure. Tall, thin, motionless, head tilted, slightly, as if examining me. I swerved, instinctively, tires scrabbling on gravel. The figure dissolved into fog. The air inside the car felt suddenly colder, my breath fogging the windshield despite the heater. I noticed the yellow lines of the road warping. They twisted, stretched, and sometimes seemed to converge, bending toward the forest. Every glance in the mirrors showed fleeting glimpses of shapes at the edges of the fog, indistinct but unnervingly human-like. I began to feel dizzy, disoriented, as though the road itself was a living thing, bending reality around me. Another figure appeared ahead, blocking the lane. I slammed the brakes, but as the car skidded, the figure vanished, leaving only the faintest depression in the asphalt, dark as if it had been carved into the surface itself. The fog thickened, curling over the hood of the car, and I realized that the road was no longer a straight path home. Every curve I took led me back to the same stretch I had passed minutes ago. The highway was trapping me.
My pulse quickened as I understood the truth. The road itself was alive in some way, patient, and the shadows weren't just shadows. They were waiting, watching, studying me. Every instinct screamed to flee, but my attempts to turn around or speed forward were futile. Each stretch of asphalt folded back into itself, looping endlessly. By now, panic had taken full control. Every fiber of my being urged me to stop, to abandon the car, but something primal told me not to. The fog had become a wall, thick enough to obscure everything beyond 30 feet. The headlights cut only a narrow tunnel of light, and even within it, shapes shifted, leaning closer with every blink. Then it began. The tapping. Slow, deliberate, moving across the roof of the car like fingernails tracing metal. My knuckles whitened on the steering wheel, and I could feel my heartbeat echoing in my ears. Then came a scraping along the driver's side, slow, measured. I swallowed, dry-mouthed, frozen with terror. The shadows took form. Tall figures emerged from the fog, limbs bending at impossible angles. They didn't advance aggressively. They didn't need to. The road itself pushed me forward, toward them. A voice, inside my head, not audible, roared, "Drive. Keep driving. You can't leave." I obeyed, though every part of me screamed against it. My hands shook uncontrollably on the wheel. The asphalt ahead began to collapse, revealing black voids where the road should have been. I swerved hard, heart hammering, tires scraping gravel, barely regaining control. The fog swirled, compressing the space, folding the road like a piece of paper, making every curve lead me to the same place. I realized with a growing dread that the night road wasn't just strange, it was a trap. The figures weren't hunting me. They didn't need to. The road itself had become the predator, and I was already inside it. Hours, or maybe minutes, passed. I had stopped trying to turn or accelerate, just letting the car roll forward along the looping asphalt. My phone remained dead. The fog never lifted. The trees pressed closer, shadows crawling along their trunks like living fingers. Then I saw them in the rearview mirror. Dozens of featureless, pale figures lining the road, bending at impossible angles, unmoving, yet undeniably aware. I tried to drive, but the road curved impossibly, leading me back to the same stretch I had passed countless times. Every exit vanished, every turn returned me to the endless twisting asphalt. The whispers returned, louder, insistent. "Don't stop. You can't leave. You're ours." I realized then that the night road had claimed me. It was no longer asphalt and trees. It was alive, patient, and it fed on fear. The figures didn't need to touch me. The road would do that. I locked the doors and tried to rationalize. Maybe it was exhaustion, maybe a hallucination. But as I glanced out the window, I could see the fog thinning slightly, and in the distance, a single, headless figure walking slowly toward me from the bend, its presence enough to make the blood in my veins run cold. And I understood, with complete certainty, that anyone driving this road at night now might see a lone car idling with headlights on, but no driver inside. And if you look too closely into the fog, you might see the shadows waiting to draw you in, to trap you where there is no escape.